Last week we explored a crystal from the celestial and heavenly realms, and this week we're going to plant you right thoroughly in the earth. That's right, this week on Crystal Confab, we are exploring moss agate, a crystal that I find really helps with that earthly connection and everything that the earth bestows upon us. So, joining me today are Nicholas and Kyle, and we're going to dive in, unpack, and get our hands dirty with moss agate. And I wanted to start off by asking you, Nicholas, what do you love moss agate for?
This is one of those stones that I think is so charming and so enchanting, and the price is often just right because it's such a common and humble stone. For me, this symbolizes regeneration, growth, rebirth, resiliency. It just has this quality of helping us plant seeds that we want to see bloom. And some of that I think we'll see hidden in its kind of geology. I've picked out a few moss agates. They're kind of small, but we've got our typical ones, those green branching forms in there. I have, unfortunately, no UV light handy, but here's one with trace uranium in it, and it glows bright green. Much safer than a lot of the other uranium I've encountered in the last, 9 months or so. We get our mocha agates, which is an old school name for these kind of white with black dendrites, sometimes from places like Medicine Bow in Wyoming. We've got our Montana moss agates, and then some that come in plumes and other fun colors and patterns inside, like this one from Oregon. So, moss agate and dendritic agates as a whole typically form like other agates with that silica in a colloid or a gel kind of state. And as it's this cooling mass of jelly or goo, particles from around the nodule can begin to seep in, and they will begin to arrange themselves in branching forms called dendrites. It's from the Greek dendros, meaning branch, and create these little epitaxial figures where the crystal lattices kind of split and branch and break up and create interesting forms. If we have chalcedonite and other like chlorite group members, among other things, we usually get those kind of mossy green appearances, and we end up with our traditional moss agates. But there is this quality of something that is nascent. It's not quite crystallized. It's still in that jelly-like state, but it's on its way to becoming a gemstone. And new seeds get planted. Tiny little particles of protocrystals get in there and they line up and they begin to attach to themselves and to one another to create these branching forms that eventually fill the space. In some of our moss agates, we see really clear bands in them, and in others, not so much because they fill up all the available space that they can. But what I see in this stone is a deep connection to the earth. It helps us nurture and grow, and whether that's planting a new idea, a new seed, or remembering to hit pause and nurture yourself because growing is hard work, and life on earth by virtue of how it works is all about growth. And moss agate is one of those stones that I will turn to when I'm starting to feel like my patience and resiliency are running thin. It is a common and humble stone. It's earthy without being heavy. Some of our grounding stones, like hematite or pyrite or garnet, for example, have a lot of weight to them. But there's something really buoyant about this that helps us just kind of lay back, relax, breathe deep, and be regenerated by those earth energies that are all around us.
It's really interesting when we think about people that buy crystals and collect crystals. I guess a lot of them do have that connection in with nature. And so I think one thing that can sometimes go hand in hand with a collection of crystals can be a collection of houseplants as well. I have no idea what people are talking about. But it's really interesting that one of the things you do see is a lot of reference of moss agate being really good, like pop it in your pot plants to help them grow, or pop it around your garden and grid it around your garden. And these can be really great ways of this kind of nurturing kind of growth that Nicholas was talking about. What's really exciting is where we are in the year right now. We soon have coming up the new moon in Virgo. Now, Virgo is a sign of physical health and well-being. It's opposing sign is Pisces, which is spirituality. So we have that spirituality versus physicality. And although this is a spiritual podcast and we talk about spiritual things, I think one of the most spiritual things we can do is to honor the physical body, because we all know when we feel like rubbish, what our life experience can be. So a new moon isn't a time necessarily that I believe you should get out there and work lots of magic and healings and do all the big stuff. It's like your New Year's Eve. It's a time to stop, reflect on the time that has been before, make some adjustments and adjust your sails, and then go forward in the right direction. And I think it's really great for us to do this on the new moon in Virgo to have a look at our health. Now, most people I speak to consider themselves to be relatively healthy. And so when I'm like, well, okay, how do you improve your health? They're like, oh, well, I'm pretty healthy anyway. But we can always up level our health. You know, would you give yourself tens across the board when it comes to sleep, food, water, the breathing, sunlight, movement, all those core things, contact with nature, all those core things that our body actually needs just to operate on its basic kind of capacity. And the new moon in Virgo is a really great time to do that. Now, sometimes we feel, okay, I need to revamp and I need to shake up things. No, I think working with Moss Agate around this time is a really great way to kind of go, how do I just start to make better decisions? You know, one of the greatest things I've learned is if you don't bring it into the house, you don't end up eating it. So, you know, going when you're doing, oh, sorry, as I kick my tripod, when you go grocery shopping, don't go grocery shopping hungry, because that's when you buy all the fatty and sugary treats. You know, go when you've after lunch or after dinner or whenever, and really start to up level in those kind of gentle ways, because what you're bringing into the home is good. I think we don't understand, you know, for me working in the health industry and dealing with people that have, you know, that no longer have their health, you kind of realize in retrospect, oh, wow, you know, I should have taken more care when previously. I was talking to my mother. I'm in my 40s, my mother's in her 70s. And we kind of she was talking about how she just gets sore now when it's cold. And I was like, oh, I'm just, you know, we're having a bit of a moan about old people kind of challenges. And we're like, if only we knew when we were 20 and 30 how much, you know, more lively our bodies are. But what we invest in it now is going to make a big difference in the future. And the new moon in Virgo is just something to kind of toy with that. And I think moss agate is a really great crystal just to kind of go, okay, well, I give myself a 7 out of 10 for sleep. But how do I get myself 8 out of 10 to sleep in that way? My partner's away for the last 3 weeks, and I've been playing a game with him to try and get us to bed earlier. Because he's an Aries, and Aries like competition. We compete on who can go to bed earlier, and it's just a stupid little game, but it's to try and get us getting more sleep and not staying up too late. Whatever works for you can be really great. Now, the other exciting thing is if you are in the Southern Hemisphere with me and Kyle, then we also have the spring equinox coming up. Now, the spring equinox, also known as Ostara, is that time of year when we kind of shift from that period of introspection and inactivity all the way through to kind of it's time for action again. It's time for sprouting into our new desires. And being a green crystal, it's a really beautiful one for the heart chakra of going, what do I love? And what would I like to bring into my life right now? So some beautiful things to do, a little activity I often like to do at Ostara is if you have some tumbled pieces of moss agate, and like Nicholas said before, it is a really great one that you can buy really inexpensively from your local crystal shop. Maybe buy yourself 4 tumbled stones and then grab some seeds. Now grab those seeds and hold them in your hands and think about what you'd like to sprout and manifest in the coming times ahead. Fill them with that intention, plant them in a little pot, put your 4 moss agates around the outside in a little bit of a grid, and then, you know, as these plants and seeds start to sprout, this will bring energy into your intention. What I love about this exercise is it's also a lesson in manifestation, because I've done this with groups before and that we've had the pots and the seeds, and then I'll check in with everyone 2 weeks later and go, how is everyone's sprouts going? And some people go, oh, yeah, I'm getting the little green tips. And some people are like, oh, it's, you know, 2 centimeter shoots. And other people will be like, oh, I put it out on the veranda or the patio and I forgot to water it and it's not looking too good at all. And that's really insightful on how we often treat our magic and our spiritual work is do we have these lofty intentions and then leave them outside and forget about them as well? Moss agate is a really great one for helping you to slowly nurture, gently grow, just like nature does. Nature's not in a rush. It doesn't, a tree doesn't strain to grow. It just grows. And I think these are times when we're looking at improving our health and how we're growing there, whether it be the Ostara and the spring equinox energy of slowly sprouting into the next chapter of our life. Moss agate is a really nice one to work with in that way. So I love it for that. How about yourself, Kyle? What do you use moss agate for?
For me, moss agate has been emotional because it has allowed me to feel and process my emotions. It's allowed me to be comfortable doing that. Now, when I talk, I love astrology. Astrology is something that I was sort of raised around, and I think it helps us to understand ourselves. I have 5 placements in Sagittarius, 3 placements in Scorpio, 2 in Aquarius. One of my Aquarius placements is my moon. So distance from my emotion is something that I created at a young age. There was a lot of crap that I saw. There was a lot of stuff that happened. And there was a point, I will be really, really honest, there was a point, I was 14, it was my grandmother's funeral. She was the last of my 4 grandparents to pass. Everyone was crying and I became stoic. There was this thing that happened that switched off my emotions because everyone else was, and I needed to become strong. And I needed to be, it felt like I needed to carry that because everyone else was feeling. And so I needed to bring a bit of light, bring a bit of strength, bring a bit of joy, whatever it was. I remember that emotional center shutting off. And I didn't cry for over a decade, not once. I didn't let myself get overly angry. I suppressed lots of that big emotional stuff. And I created a tumor the size of my fist behind my heart. Benign. It was so big, it was pressing against my spine. This, I know, 1,000% was a physical manifestation of the repression and suppression of emotion and feeling. It is something that we create within ourselves. As Adam said, we create disease when we don't address things, when we are not taking care of our health. Our emotional health is part of that health. And for me, this has helped me address the fact that that suppression affected my physical body on a scale that I felt really uncomfortably. As I said, it pushed against my spine. I couldn't sit back properly. And in the years since I've had it cut out, the scar that I have will twinge and itch when I am highly emotional, when I'm feeling really volatile, when I know that I've got a lot on my scale. And I have many large pieces of moss agate in my collection because I need that very grounded physical reminder often and regularly. This piece sits on my coffee table. It is so connected to my everyday life. I have a pendant that I wore for a really long period of time, and every day I would hold it, I would rub it, I would connect to it. And it was this period where I was allowing myself to feel again. I was learning that it was okay to feel, it was okay to have emotions. It wasn't weakness, it wasn't softness. It's just part of who I am. It's part of all of us. There is a level of emotion within all of us. And I particularly am a highly emotional person, and that's okay. I have a lot to feel. There's a lot that flows through me. And when I let it flow through me, I'm a better version of myself. But when I stop it within myself, when I hold it within, when I make it beaver it up and block the dam and do all of that, it just becomes a volcano. I'm half Sicilian and my family comes from near Mount Etna, and that volcanic side of me is real. And Etna is a healthy volcano because it's constantly bubbling, right? We respect it. Everyone keeps a safe distance, but we have this incredible ground that can then be grown from, really incredible nutrient rich ground. So I know that when I allow myself to bubble constantly, when I let myself feel whatever I'm feeling, I can actually navigate life better. I can understand what's happening. I can feel my way through the world instead of trying to know everything, instead of trying to dictate, instead of trying to be stoic and strong and be logical all the time. No, I am meant to be in more fluidity, in more organic sort of movement. We're all meant to. It helps us all move better. And it has been allowing that movement, allowing that feeling to flow through me that has allowed me to move better, allow me to know myself better, allow me to be more comfortable with emotion. There are certain times in our life when we feel really emotional, like maybe it's the full moon and things are bubbling up. Maybe someone's passed or you've gone through a breakup and there's legitimate emotion that you're feeling and you need to feel the feels and you need to allow yourself comfort in that so that you can move forward and know what to do next. There are times when we can be fine and all of a sudden we feel really emotional. And it's actually because we're now safe enough in distance and time from a situation that we can now feel the feelings. And this is a really important thing as well. We can go on our journey, our spiritual journey, we can be taking care of ourselves. And all of a sudden, something happens and it's like, why am I regressing? It's like, no, you're actually in a safe enough place where you can come back to a lesson, feel your way through it, address it, come to terms with it, and move on. Like there are times when new moons, full moons, New Year's, when we reflect, and all of a sudden, oh, that comes back to us. That memory comes back to us, and you realize you pushed it way back. You got busy, life happened, and you forgot about it. And it is a genuine thing that happens. And then all of a sudden, it comes back, and it's important to go, okay, maybe it's just that it's safe now. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's just showing you, look how far you've come. Look at where you are now. It's okay to grieve it. It's okay to feel how you felt about it. It's okay to know that frustration, pain, anger, grief, emotion, they are all legitimate things that we have within us that we feel. And to know them helps us to understand ourselves better. And this is something that I like to correlate to moss. Moss is a life-giving thing, right? It is named appropriately, and Nicholas said it in his first few words, humble, right? It is such a humble energy, and moss is humble. People don't rave about moss. People don't care about moss, right? Moss grows on hard, moist, tough environments that are pretty extreme generally, and they need sun, they need water, and they need something physical, right? They're not about the thought. The wind is what they produce. They produce oxygen. They give life to us living creatures. So when we allow ourselves to be in our feelings, the water, be connected to the ground, to the earth, let a little bit of that warmth in, a little bit of that light in, we can actually produce clarity for ourselves. We can actually create life. We can actually do more. I found moss agate to be, yes, so humble, but so powerful and transformative in the way that it works. And so I think if you have overlooked it, more for you. I think it is such a beautiful energy that we should all connect to, all have a bit of time with. And maybe it is because you're a bit disconnected emotionally. Maybe it is because you've not allowed yourself to feel that you're a bit disconnected from it.
Kyle, thank you so much. For someone who also has their moon in Aquarius, that was a masterclass in moon in Aquarius. So if anyone who's tuned in today has that astrological placement, or maybe you have someone in your life who has, I think that was you go back and I know we're meant to be talking about crystals, but that was a really great astrology explanation as well. Being a green crystal, Nicholas, we often think of green crystals are really good for the heart. And, we think of the heart, we think of romance, and we think of relationships and that type of thing. But do you think moss agate could work as a heart chakra crystal?
Well, first I'd say that not all moss agate is green. And there are plenty of examples from around the world where you're going to get red and black or pink or blue or gray moss instead of the classic green. And for me, it's about the formation more than anything. But that formation is about growth. It is about the way things aggregate. It is about drawing things together, synthesizing them into something bigger than they are. And that's what relationships are. That's what love is about. Love is a force that engenders growth in all corners of the universe. It's not just an emotion that we feel. It is the driving impetus for all transformation. And I think moss agate by extension is a great choice for that.
What about yourself, Kyle?
I would say absolutely. As I said, it sits on our coffee table. The coffee table sits between my husband and I, and we've constantly got that beautiful energy flowing between us. Like when we sit down on our couches with the coffee table between us, that's when we kind of talk about everything, the day, life, all of that sort of stuff. And we have been a chat around the coffee table couple for as long as we've kind of been together. We're not a dinner table chat kind of couple. We're a coffee table chat vibe. And I think that being there as a part of that always makes it a nice place and a safe space for us to communicate clearly and openly with each other.
I'm just reflecting on, the heart chakra, it's interesting, is often depicted as being the two colors of green and pink, because that's about our ability to give love to the world, but also our ability to receive love from the world. And there are some very kind and generous people who are great at giving, but when it comes to taking something back or nourishing themselves, they struggle in that way. And I feel moss agate, because of its nurturing kind of way and the way Kyle was talking about, this isn't it's not a slap in the face kind of crystal. It's like moss. It grows very slowly and steadily and nurtures. I think it would be a really great one for people who just need to give themselves a little bit of self-care, that maybe give too much and don't leave a little reserve for themselves as well. Another little tip I will give people about working with moss agate, if you'd like to in meditation and so on, you know that I love to combine my crystals and my essential oils. This isn't an essential oil because it's extracted different, so it's called an absolute, but there is a essential oil called oak moss. Now, what does that smell like? It smells exactly what you probably imagine it to. It's very dark and mystical and green, and it's one of my favorite aromas. It's not something you see a lot. They will work it into blends, but if you can get your hands on just even a little sample of this and to smell that, you're really going to kind of capture that moss agate and that wilderness and that wildness and that nurturing kind of energy as well. So I mentioned before that this is a great one that you can pop it in your houseplants to help them grow. I think we've talked about how it can help you grow as well. Kyle, is there any other ways you like to use moss agate practically?
Absolutely. For me, where last week we spoke about a crystal violane that is good to sit with and be with, for me, moss agate is the opposite. For me, moss agate is an all-day crystal that you can have in your pocket, you can wear a bracelet, and it can be a fabulous reminder of just taking it slowly, taking each step as it comes, moving organically. If something comes up, it comes up and you let it go. Don't be caught up in it. Don't wait till 3 days down the track to feel the feelings about it. Like, take a moment, be with it. It allows me, when I need to sort of be in flow and be less reactive. And I think there are many days when many of us need to sort of be unbothered. I think all agates are nurturing and protective. There is a quality that is like, I've got you. All agates, every single one of them, and chalcedony, like all of the associated flavors of them, they have this, they grow like this, like they keep us encased in a little bit of a safer, contained way that helps us to move with ease.
It's probably a really good crystal for people who have a tendency to want to try and control things or force things in certain directions, and just allow things to grow in their own time. Yeah, really good. I was just thinking, there's a lot of people that after the first date, they're already planning the marriage. They're already planning the wedding, and they're like, oh, I wonder if they're the right this. And it's just like, just let things grow as it should grow and enjoy the moment. Because, hey, if you have just met your soulmate that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, this is the last time you get to experience those early butterflies and all those exciting things. So relish that and don't rush down to the altar straight away. Nicholas, what about yourself? Any practical suggestions for how to use moss agate?
Yeah, take one out into nature. Like pop one in your pocket and go for a walk. Hang one around your neck and do some gardening. Get your hands in the earth. And if you don't have the option to go into the green world, bring the green world into you, whether that's a house plant or a cup of herbal tea. Like do something that connects you to nature. We forget that we are part of nature. And I think moss agate is a good reminder that our high-rise apartment buildings are no different than the beaver's dam or the bird's nest or the bee's honeycomb. Just because it's a structure we made, it's still part of the earth and nature. So I think this can be a good stone for helping us kind of break that fourth wall, and being one with nature wherever we are. But sometimes we got to go away from home to remember that that's nature too.
So true. For 99% of the time that we have been a recognized species on this planet, we've lived interacting and part of nature for all that time. And although we've evolved and have fancy little things like YouTube and the internet, that allow us to kind of talk to each other around the world, we haven't evolved and our bodies haven't evolved to not live without nature. So I think that reminder of just the healing powers of nature can be really great. And moss agate is a really great a gateway drug or gateway crystal to get you back into nature and back into harmony as well. Well, we could talk forever more about moss agate, but we're all going to go outside now and go sit under a tree. Maybe you should do the same with your moss agate. Until next week, we'll see you then. Take care and blessed be.